Hey friends, we're here today with Abby Westerman, co-founder and CEO of Be Present. Be Present was established in memory of Kirsten, whose battle with cancer inspired us to improve the experience for both young adults with cancer and their supporters. Be Present is working to provide the resources that they wish to have had as part of the support network. And they want to ignite a movement among young adults to amplify the importance of presence. Abby, welcome to the show, and thank you for chatting with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you inviting me to be today.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to share your story. And to share that story, we're going to jump right into the heart of this discussion. I really believe that everyone, through their travels, life, and experiences, collects these beliefs that make us who we are. Tell us, share with us, what is a core idea or belief that you hold to be so true?
The most important thing for me is that people realize there's nothing more important than being present for others.
There is nothing more important than being present for others. And today we're going to tell Abby's story and the story of Be Present and really learn that lesson. So Abby, why don't you give us the quick start here on what Be Present is in your words, and then after that we'll go to the origins and talk about how you've grown it from an idea to what it is today. So what is Be Present in your words?
Yeah, be present is really just it's a means to an end, and that is that a lot of young adults, which is basically our target audience, don't have the life experience or the tools and information to really know what it means to be present for others. And as supporters ourselves, we really struggled with that as well. And I think a lot of my daughter's supporters did. And so Be Present is really about looking at the whole spectrum of an experience with cancer, from even before the diagnosis happens to through survivorship. And really what we're trying to do in all of those phases is help the young adults with the idea of presence. So we have two programs, Be Aware, which is planting the seeds of presence and really helping people understand that there really is nothing more important than being present, and how to actually do that for somebody else and have that priority in mind. And then Be Connected is our second program, and that is really focused on, once the diagnosis happens, making sure that those peers and friends stay connected with the person going through the diagnosis and treatment of cancer, so that they can have the best quality of life possible while they're struggling with the rest of their upheavaled life.
So obviously this nonprofit, this organization is extremely personal to you. Can you tell us the quick version of your story leading up to starting this nonprofit and then the actual origin of everything?
Sure. So it started with my daughter Kirsten's diagnosis, and she was a junior in college when she actually was diagnosed with leukemia. And she had the type of leukemia that required her to be in the hospital the entire time. And she, just in a sentence, was one of those people that got her energy from others. And so to be isolated from family and school and friends and just life in general, and again, as a young adult where everything is just starting to happen, it was really, really hard for her. And the bottom line is that when quality of life is poor, and when you feel lonely and isolated, it really impacts your response to treatment. And I saw that with her very much over the course of her 7 months. And so really what we saw was that her friends just struggled, and this is a common story. The peers just don't know what to do or say, and oftentimes that's enough to keep them away. And it's not anything malicious. It's struggling with what to do. And so that really inspired us. And Kirsten was the one that was the strongest advocate, but inspired us to take her vision for change and really carry it forward for others who will be going through the same thing.
So what year was that happening at?
So she was diagnosed in 2015 in July, and then passed away in February of 2016. So
inside 2015, when you first get that diagnosis, was it just kind of like business as usual, life's going on, life is good, and then this comes out of left field without it just having any real idea where it came from?
Absolutely. Yes. It was one of those things where everybody was busy on the fast train with life, pursuing dreams, working hard. And it was a phone call that I never expected to ever get. And in fact, when she told me the diagnosis, because she was actually in the emergency room, and we were just, talking back and forth about what's next or whatever. So when she first told me that the doctor said that she had leukemia, I actually had to pause for a minute and was hoping that I had misheard her or that she had misheard the doctor, and actually asked her if that's what the doctor said. Is she sure that that's what he said? And then when she responded with, yeah, why is it bad? I knew that we were in for a ride.
Hmm. Are there different stages of leukemia? And did you know a stage that she was at that point?
Um, well, so again, we really didn't know too much about the cancer in general or leukemia, but when she was diagnosed, it was like the week before. She was at the beach hanging out with friends, and then she just got really sick all of a sudden. And so that's why she was just in the emergency room. We thought that she was just very ill. But by the time she got there, she was probably a day away from being in the ICU. Her blood counts were so high, and the doctor knew immediately when he saw her what was going on. But I mean, cancer is not something that they think about with flu symptoms or whatever, or being tired, the other things that may have led up to it. You never think that it's cancer. And so I think it was that much more shocking for not only us, but for her friends as well.
With the goal of be present, uh, to be present and be that support system that needs to be there. Can you help shed some light on what are some of those emotions? Like, there's probably some shock in the initial parts of that, and then there's some acceptance, and then there's, can you talk us through just a couple of those stages and the emotions that the family is feeling during that period?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The first few weeks are just really chaotic. It's about absorbing just the fact that somebody this young has cancer, and it wasn't only just for us. And my husband and I were basically her primary caregivers, and we're with her in the hospital pretty much every day. And so us absorbing, we were just taking it one day at a time. There really wasn't any time to think about or reflect on what was going on. You were just kind of there. And it was a machine gun of information, learning everything you ever wanted to know about cancer and more. And then with her friends, there was definitely, and this is again a pattern across pretty much all young adults, is that there's this, flurry of concern at the beginning, and lots of visits and lots of updating everybody. And then I would say within the first few weeks, it starts to get really quiet. And that's really when the treatment starts to kind of kick in. They actually started her treatment, within a day or two after being admitted to the hospital. So there really wasn't time to think or reflect on fertility options or any of that stuff. It was like, we have to do this now. But again, for her friends, I think, they wanted to be there for her, and they did a really great job of showing up and letting her know that she was there. But because she was so sick at the beginning, I think a lot of times too, she didn't really know what was going on. And then, like I say, throughout treatment, that's really the period of time where things have settled in. The chaos of the cancer aspect of it is, you kind of the support team at the hospital and everybody else that's been working with you, all of that kind of settles out that lack of knowledge. There's still, daily things that happen, and the roller coaster continues. But that's really when the long haul of, making sure that she has that connection to the outside world. And she would stay connected with friends, but I think it became more intermittent as school kicked in. And then she had finished her treatment. It was a long 7 months with, chemo, and then a recovery time, and then chemo. And so when she had finished treatment, we thought, light at the end of the tunnel. She was ready to move back down here and start life again, and had a whole new perspective on where she wanted to go. And that's when things went sideways, and over a weekend she passed away. It was just complications came out of nowhere, and none of her friends even had a chance to say goodbye. And I think that was really a struggle for all of them, because again, getting back to this concept of being present, when you know, or you feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel, it's like, well, I'll go see her tomorrow or when she's done with treatment or whatever. And this concept of presence, there's no time. I mean, do it now because you never know if tomorrow will come, is part of that, the trilogy of presence, no time like the present to be present because it's the best present of all. So I really feel like, there's, you can't put off what you don't know what the future holds, but you can change their future by being present for them in the moment.
After that, there's a grieving period. Can you talk about the importance of support during that time as well, and some of the things that you learned about the good or the bad of support networks for that portion?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We were almost living, I think, parallel worlds in terms of, the isolation aspect, but in the grieving process, it's another one that's just a difficult topic for people to talk about, to know what to do or to say or how to help, which is kind of the same as when there's a diagnosis, you don't know what to do or say or how to help. And there's just a stigma, with grief and death, with cancer as well, that makes it just difficult for people who you were talking to yesterday, and suddenly there's this thing that, this wall that's created with whatever the word is, that's the stigma, and people just struggle with that interaction for some reason. It interferes with their ability to maintain that same social connection. And so for us, it was kind of the same way. I mean, we had, that surrounding of all of the people and all of the condolences and everything, which we very much appreciated. I think that was something that really helped us get through it. When you lose a child, they're born, they're a piece of you, and when you lose them, you feel that piece go away. I mean, it is a palpable pain that you feel. And so it really meant a lot for both of us to have, the people around us to provide support. And there was people that provided meals and other things. But again, there is also that, kind of once the chaos is over, there's a very long period of quiet where you wonder if people have forgotten and moved on. I mean, it's just all of those feelings. And again, it's parallel to what Kirsten, I'm sure, experienced with, has everybody just moved on or what? And so in founding the organization, I think that was really the first time I felt like all of that frustration with what happened and the outcome, and just, you can go to a dark place with all of that and be, be sad and non-productive. And so for me, I think, and with her friends too, we talked about this, a few months after Kirsten passed away, that probably the best thing that we could do is, rather than hope it would be different for other people, that we would turn that darkness into light by picking up where Kirsten left off, and basically try and make it so that others that are, find out about a friend that's been diagnosed have the tools and information that they can feel better about being there for them and be more consistent with that support. And so that's kind of what led to the healing process, I think, for all of us.
So throughout this time, I mean, you clearly experienced firsthand the power of presence and the power of lack of presence, the good and the bad. How far after, at what point do the conversations with her friends in that group turn to, hey, we're gonna actually do something, and we're gonna actually start a nonprofit to do something?
Right. So I think the conversations really started kind of in the fall of 2016. And I remember we had, conversations around our dinner table, basically talking about the name of the organization and how we were going to do it and what would the focus be. And that's when we talked about, there's different things that are out there for helping, cancer patients and survivors, but there really was nothing out there that focused on helping the peer support network, that social support network that's so desperately needed and desired by the cancer patient. And so that's when we were really sort of figuring out how we were going to do this. And then on the 1-year anniversary of Kirsten's passing away, so February of 2017, we actually had a launch party and announced our intent to start the organization, Be Present. But it was coming to form, like I say, the fall of 2016. So it didn't take long for us to to feel like there was something more that we wanted to do, and were inspired by what Kirsten had started to keep that going.
Can you talk to us about the first program, or did both programs launch at the same time? How did that kind of progress?
Yeah, so both programs, Be Aware, the awareness campaign, and really started first, but in the background we were working a couple of elements on the Be Connected side. But so for the Be Aware campaign, again, it's really about creating that awareness amongst the general young adult population, because we never know who's going to get the call, right? And so you can't be learning all of this stuff as soon as you hear the diagnosis. You want to at least plant that seed that if they remember nothing else, they need to remember to be present when they get that call. Don't let fear or anything else, change your mind. Remember that presence has an impact for the person that's going through treatment, and to stick with it. It's going to be hard for both of the people that are involved, but you got to stick with it because it really will make a difference. And so the awareness campaign, we started all of our social campaign in October of 2018, and that's really when that part of it launched. And prior to that was really the strategic planning process of how we're going to do this, and who is our audience, and how are we going to move forward. And then that pretty much took off with just starting to create that content, and it's not just focused on cancer. It's, like I say, it's focused on just helping them understand the importance of presence, gaining those experiences, and feeling that impact in whatever way they're present for other people, and remember, reinforcing how much that means to people. And then Be Connected, we actually developed a tool that is called Be There, that is in beta, and will be launched officially in the next week or so, but it's available on the website now. And that really is designed to help the patient and the supporter stay connected. So to kind of ease that whole process of asking for and providing support. So, they were sort of staggered in launch, but the awareness campaign came first. And then we have more content that we're developing coming up here for the Be Connected side as well, in terms of providing those resources to help once that diagnosis happens.
Awesome. So it sounds like the initial kind of mission was, all right, we need to first and foremost spread awareness and educate on this process, so that people have a general understanding before it happens of what to expect and how to support, et cetera. And then from there, you said, well, we need to make sure that our patients are connected, and that's connecting them to the multitude of resources that are available, as well as connected more appropriately to the support network. And that is then where the Be There tool is birthed out of, which sounds like an absolutely incredible tool. It's a big jump even just to start a nonprofit, but to then say, no, you know what? We want our nonprofit to actually make a technology product that's going to be a game changer. Can you tell us that story of when you first have this idea for a technology product, and how a nonprofit were to go about pulling off launching a technology platform?
Yeah, so I think it was one of those early ideas. So after Kirsten passed away, one of the first things I did was I made a list. And that list there was just a lot of different things associated with the cancer experience, both in terms of support and the technologies available to stay connected. And that was one of the ones on my list that I just felt was so important. We had used Caring Bridge to communicate with family and friends during Kirsten's treatment, but I don't think it really resonated with the young adult community and their busy schedule and life. They would read it, but at the end of reading it, they still didn't know how they could help, what they needed, if it was okay to come by and visit and that sort of thing. And so it just sort of grew out of that sense that young adults are busy. We need to make it very clear what the needs are so that they can, figure out how they can help, and in a means that's helpful to the patient at that moment in time. And so it was really about including both, a scheduling aspect, a wish aspect, and then also communicating just that emotional state and desire for visits. Because a lot of times it's hard to say, no, I don't want visitors today. I'm not feeling very good. Because you don't want people to think, oh, well, I just won't, go by. It's just in that moment. So and it kind of takes away all of neutralizes the stress associated with communicating those kinds of feelings. And so combining all of that together, we felt like was a way to simplify that whole process of asking for and providing support. And by doing that, what you preserve is the support network, because they're like, hey, this isn't, I know what I need to do. I know if I have time available, that's, that's when I can go by. And it just makes it a little simpler, as opposed to more of a serial process where you call one person, can they come by? Nope, can't do that, and you just have to kind of go through the phone list or whatever. So it was really a means to simplify all of that and still get them what they need and show up for them in the way that, their emotional state was on a particular day.
Yeah, it sounds like the Be There tool is such a great dynamic solution for a constantly changing situation, which is, the state of the hospital room, the emotional state, the mental state. And the important part is that someone who's going through a treatment journey like that always needs support. But if we can line up that with when they want and can accept the support, that's when it's going to make the biggest difference. And that's what the Be There tool sounds like helps accomplish.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's, they communicate as much as they need to, and it's okay to not want visitors for a couple of weeks if you're not feeling good. And it just makes it easier, because a lot of times what we do is we hold back, right? Oh, I really want to call them, but I'm not sure if I'm going to interrupt, so I won't call them today. And then that spirals into, you've waited too long and now you're embarrassed to call or whatever. And so by them being able to just take a look and say, oh, they don't want visitors today, that's okay. But, oh, hey, look, they've got something that they need today that I can send, so I can still be present, just not physically present. And then on other days, it's like, hey, yeah, they're up for visitors. I'll see if I can make some time in my schedule and bring by that, item that they were asking for. So yeah, it's really about making the communication clear, simple, quick to respond to, and in every moment, it's meaningful to the person that needs that support.
From the supporter side, it sounds like there's two hurdles that need to get jumped. The first being, making the time and not second guessing making that time. So making the time a priority and calling, visiting, etc. And then the second hurdle would seem to be knowing what to say or what not to say. Can
Mm-hmm.
you give some advice on that second hurdle?
Yeah, I think as far as, and we've implemented what we've called talking tips in our awareness campaign, and it's really about the most important thing again is being present in the moment with that person and following their cues when you're in the room with them. But it's really about just showing up and being okay with the fact that it may be messy in the conversation, but not to change how you interact with them just simply because they have this diagnosis. Continue to bring that normalcy to them that they so desperately need during this time, because with everything else going crazy, that's the one thing that helps them kind of stay connected and grounded. And so, just being thoughtful about, what you say and how you act. And it's just very simple, like with our talking tips, what we do is a side-by-side comparison of what people often say, like with losing hair, for example. Oh, it'll just grow back. Well, to the person that's losing the hair, that's not a helpful statement. It's kind of dismissive to what they're going through. And it's really acknowledging, yes, you look different without hair, but it doesn't change how I feel about you. I mean, it's a different way of responding to their angst about having lost hair. And if you can just understand those little subtle differences about what you do or say, and be sensitive to whether they want to talk about their illness today or whether they want to talk about, what all the friends have been up to. In both cases, those conversations are important, but you have to be present in the moment with them in order to understand what it is they're looking for in terms of conversation and interact, accordingly. Some days they may just want you to listen. Don't try and be the fixer on days when they just want you to listen. Because what it does when you're trying to fix things is it invalidates the feelings they're feeling sometimes as
Hmm.
well.
Seems like there'd be a really delicate balance between, well, I don't want to ask anything about their illness or how they're feeling, but I also don't want it to come off as if I'm avoiding it, but I also don't know if they want to talk about it. What's the advice for navigating that interesting balance on the supporter side?
Yeah, and that's a really tough one. And I think it's, it's very individual with who the person is. I think there's some people, I mean, Kirsten was very much, in direct with saying how she felt. And so I think she would have been fine with people saying, hey, I really don't know what to say. Help me, let's kind of figure this out. But often what would happen is, on a day maybe when she wanted to talk a little bit about what was going on with her, if the conversation would suddenly be changed to something that was more upbeat or whatever, right? They don't want to talk about the sad stuff for too long, and that's hard. So again, you have to embrace the silence. Like again, if they want to just be able to talk, you just got to sit there and listen and resist the urge to kind of interject. But also, you can show up and just say, hey, what do you feel like doing today? And open it up to them to say, to start that conversation with, this has been such a crappy day. I just want to hear what's going on with you guys, and, how's school going or whatever. And on another day, it may be, say, hey, what do you want to do today? Here's what's been going on with me with the treatment, and this is what, but be open to either of those conversations by starting it with, what would you like to do today or talk about today?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I say, just pay attention. I mean, don't overstay your welcome, and those kinds of things too, because sometimes if they're not feeling well, again, they want you to be there so badly, but they also aren't feeling well. And so just kind of follow those cues as you're interacting with them to know timing and when it's time to change the conversation and when it's not time to change the conversation.
I can imagine that the fear of not knowing what to say would is what stops a lot of people from calling or visiting.
Mm-hmm.
But talking about presence, one of the most important parts is that it starts with the presence, whether it's on the phone or in person. Just your presence is already having some healing effects, and then from there, you're going to figure out what to say, how to say it, and so yeah, just it's an interesting. What an interesting, just kind of like we get in our own heads of, I don't know what I'm going to say. So I just
Mm-hmm.
can't call. I'm not going to go. But just our presence is enough to kick off some healing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do get in our own way quite a lot when it comes to that stuff, when we should just, let it be the way it has been, and go from there, and just know that the connection you had before the diagnosis hasn't changed. So don't let it change by creating that wall.
That's really powerful. The connection you had before the diagnosis hasn't changed. So don't let it change. That's awesome. Um, so where's Be Present at today? What's the team structure look like? Board, volunteers, and where are we going tomorrow?
Yeah, so again, we started with the board, which was three of Kirsten's best friends and supporters joined me in forming the organization, and they've been amazing. I mean, they are so excited and enthusiastic about just the mission. They dearly loved Kirsten, obviously, so with her in their hearts, and the mission for being able to make a difference for others. They're all very engaged as far as board members go, which I feel very fortunate to have that, because not all organizations are, lucky enough to have everybody actively engaged. And we're primarily a volunteer organization. I work full time as a CEO, but it's all volunteer. And then we have a couple of other volunteers that provide services and support with our digital content and some of the other just administrative functions. And then I have two teams that I subcontract to that are helping us out with the awareness campaign, and then also with the development of the Be There tool. So still a relatively small organization, less than a dozen people. And then, of course, like I said, the community that surrounds us with support. We've been very fortunate in that regard too, is the people that, knew Kirsten, and now we're extending, beyond that circle out into the community in general. And even with our advisory board, we have connections with both hospitals that Kirsten was being treated, both at Stanford and down here in San Diego at Rady's Hospital. They've been actively involved with where we're headed and helping us understand, what the priorities are and where the gaps are, so that we can all move forward together. So it's been, I just feel like this is something special, and people will see it. It always takes time with a nonprofit to kind of get off the ground and gain that momentum, but that it's such a simple concept that can be used in so many different phases of our life, for so many different experiences and people that we will meet along the way, that it's not just a one and done kind of thing. It's something that will empower us forever, and it will make lives better for many. And so I think people see that, and they all see the importance and have seen the importance of having friends surround the patient, the survivor, and help them kind of move forward together. And so where we're at and where we're going, both of our programs are up and running. Now we are at a tipping point where we've kind of laid the foundation. We had a workshop last year. We actually brought together survivors, supporters, medical professionals, and had that frank conversation from all perspectives of, just how hard it is from everybody's, view to provide support or to ask for support. And so I think that was actually a really powerful thing to allow everybody to kind of appreciate the other perspective. But out of that workshop, we have some recommendations that we're moving forward with as well to try and improve the support for young adults. So yeah, just 2020 was always looked to be the year of growth, and that's what we're doing. We're trying to get everything moving, and it means growing the team. It means growing the programs, growing the community. And we're not going to stop till we've really made an impact and continue to make an impact. And so we're really excited about where we're headed.
Amazing. For anyone that is wanting to be part of that impact, here's the story and wants to support, there are definitely a couple ways. Obviously, from the awareness side, as a supporter, tap into the social media accounts, the website of Be Present. And they're giving some talking tips, some awesome tools for supporters to learn how to be the best supporter that they can be for that loved one or friend going through a tough time. And on the patient side, there's the Be Connected resources and the Be There tool, which Abby's based out of San Diego. We're in the early May of 2020 right now, and that tool will be launching shortly. And I imagine that once that's launched, it would be able to be utilized in any state from anywhere. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, it's the beta version. So we're excited to have people use it and let us know what they think so that we can continue to make it better.
Great. Yeah. So if you know a patient today or tomorrow that you think would be up for trying this as a way to just receive the best support possible from the people that they love, definitely head to be-present.org, and you can find out more about the Be There tool on the site there. Abby, you said a phrase that I want to come back to as we start to wrap up here. It started with, "There's no time like the present." Do you mind just saying that again for us, because it was really poetic?
Yeah. So the tagline actually we used at the launch party was, "There's no time like the present to be present. It's the best present of all."
Mm. So we're talking today, friends, about just how there is nothing more important than being present for others. Human connection is very clearly something that matters to every human being. There's no time like the present to be present. It's the best present of all. Is an incredibly beautiful way to capture what that means. So thank you for sharing that. I'll give you the stage here, Abby, to take us home and wrap us up. Any final thoughts that you have or want to share with the listeners about Be Present, about being present, and about what to do moving forward?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the most important thing for me is that every single person just remembers and and closes their eyes for a moment when they get that diagnosis, or they get that phone call, or they know that there's a friend that's in need, to close their eyes for a second and remove any of the fear or other things that's holding them back, and to really find the courage and the power to be there with that person. Because quality of life, whether it's for a day or a month or a year or a lifetime, is so important. And quality of life, a big contributor is presence. And so we're looking forward to making a difference with the young adults in the cancer community. But we really see this being something that it's a skill that people will be able to use in all different situations as they move through their life and life experiences. And the more times you do it, the better you are at it. It's still hard every time because every situation is different. But just going back to that basic premise, to be okay with it being messy, but just to be present, and you'll figure it out together.
I love it. We've been chatting today, friends, with Abby Westerman, the co-founder and CEO of Be Present. You can check out their website, be-present.org. And they're also on social media, probably coming out with a podcast soon, but I'll let you head to their website to check out what that's all about. But Abby, thank you so much for sharing your story, for starting Be Present, and for the amazing work that you do to help the support networks and to help young adults and folks battling a tough time in the hospital. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me, as I really appreciate the time.
Awesome.